All right. So go ahead and tell me what your name is and then what your rank was at retirement.
Okay, I'm David Schrodt, and I retired as fire chief at the end of 2014.
Okay. Um, so when did you become the fire chief for Midlothian?
I was elected to the position of volunteer fire chief.
Okay.
The election occurred in December of 1986 to take effect January the 1st of 1987.
Okay. So they held an election to have you as
every year we elected volunteer officers.
Right, I do remember.
It was
that.
always elected in December.
Okay.
And then they started serving January the 1st.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I began officially as fire chief. I served as a volunteer fire chief for 1987. I was reelected in December of that year.
Mm-hmm.
Again, served as a volunteer fire chief starting in January of '88.
Okay.
And then Chuck Pinto, who was our city manager at the time,
mm-hmm.
had put into his budget a paid position
mm-hmm.
for fire chief that would be available in April, mid-budget year. He interviewed several people. I don't remember exactly how many,
mm-hmm.
but paid people from the Dallas Fire Department. He interviewed me since I was currently in the position.
Right.
And decided after all the interviews, and I think probably a little help from one or two volunteers, he decided that he would let me continue and be the city's first paid fire chief.
Okay.
So, and I've served, I won't say without threat, but I've served, I served from 1987 to 2014 as fire chief. With the exception of a 30-day suspension and a 90-day demotion.
Okay, we'll get to that. So what was your ID number? Did you have an ID number?
Well, we didn't really start assigning ID numbers until we got a computer.
Okay.
And when we got that computer, I would have been the 7th paid person on the department.
Okay.
So I took the number 007.
Oh, there you go. Were you a James Bond fan?
Well, yeah, kind of. But that's not really the reason
okay.
why.
So we already answered that portion of it. It just says, how long did you work for Midlothian? So as you mentioned earlier, you kind of got on this as a not your typical way, right?
Mm-mm.
So where did you work before Midlothian?
I started in public safety June the 14th of 1971 with the Dallas Police Department.
Okay.
And was a police officer for almost 3 years there. Mm-hmm. I left to go be a fireman in Mesquite. And so I was actually a paid fireman in Mesquite for, from April of 74 until January of 75. So not a full year.
Right.
During that period of time, my wife was giving birth to our first child.
Mm-hmm.
He was colicky.
Okay.
I was working a part-time job on my days off,
mm-hmm.
which wasn't helping her.
Right.
This October came around, the new budgets, and the city of Mesquite. Well, I think they gave us a small raise. It wasn't
mm-hmm.
much. City of Dallas had given a more substantial raise to their police officers.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, with my wife struggling with the baby, and we need money. Mm-hmm. And so I went back to the city of Dallas as a police officer again. Not too long after that, I promoted to sergeant, and then I eventually promoted to lieutenant on the Dallas Police Department. It was along about some of those intervening years, I realized that firefighting had gotten in my blood in that brief experience in
mm-hmm.
Mesquite.
It tends to do that.
So I started trying to find a paid department I could get back on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you can imagine how I was looked at by the interview boards at police departments when they were considering my work history.
Right, yeah.
Okay, let's see. You left Dallas to go to Mesquite. You left Mesquite to come back to Dallas. You promoted twice, and now you want to go back and be a rookie fireman?
Yeah. So, probably doesn't add up.
No.
Yeah.
No, and I don't blame them. At the time I was disappointed. The last department I tested for was Arlington.
Mm-hmm.
And that was in November of '80, if I recall correctly.
Okay.
I was 40th on their list after the testing, and I just blew it off and said, well, that's the end of that. Members of our volunteer fire department at the time were working for Chaparral Steel.
Mm-hmm.
One in particular, Lynn Livingston, was a foreman at Chaparral Steel. And he and another member of the department, they were in the process of expanding Chaparral Steel. They were opening up positions for a medium section mill. They were losing members of the rebar mill to go over and fill those slots, so they needed people to fill in at the rebar. And he said, why don't you come interview? Well, I had tried, I don't know how many departments I tried to get on, had varying success, but never got there.
Right.
When I went to Chaparral Steel, they just rolled out the red carpet. And I was going to be an apprentice electrician for Chaparral Steel. And so I've had a personal relationship with Jesus for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And in the midst of trying to get on at all those departments, I would pray.
Right.
And I would say things like, you know what my heart is.
Mm-hmm.
You know how badly I would like to be a fireman again.
Right.
I'm willing to give up the lieutenant position, to go do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go do my best at this interview process or this test process. And if it's your will, open the door.
Right.
If it's not your will, shut the door.
Mm-hmm.
And every door was shut. So when Chaparral Steel goes, come in. Yeah. I said, well, okay. So I told them, and I was still on the police department in Dallas at that time. And I said, okay. So I submitted my resignation, 2 weeks notice to Dallas. And I was scheduled to come on Chaparral Steel October the 5th, I believe, of 81.
Mm-hmm.
Well, about a week after I told Chaparral Steel I would come, Arlington called. We're down to you now on our list. Would you like to come in for an interview? Yes, without even thinking. Yes.
Right.
And so they set a date 2 or 3 days later for me to come in to interview.
Mm-hmm.
I hung up the phone, sitting there basking in the thought of, oh boy, and then it struck me. David, you have been praying about all these jobs. The doors have been shut. This one is wide open. You've given them your word that you would come to work for them.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to walk by faith, or are you going to run off on your own?
Mm-hmm.
I called Arlington back. I said, I'm sorry to tell you this, but I won't be able to come in for the interview because I've accepted another job. Okay, thank you very much. Click.
Right, on to the next one.
On to the next one. And I went on to Chaparral. Started an apprentice electrical position in the bar mill. That was October of 81. In, I think it was the spring of 82. No, I went all the way through 82 into the fall and found out that, each year at Chaparral Steel, they would shut down for a period in the summer for repairs and remodels and adding new equipment. Mm-hmm. Those were our summer shutdowns, and we had to work pretty long hours. And it wasn't too long after that summer shutdown in 82, I believe it was 82, that I was leaving the plant one day, walking down the hall, and we always walked by HR on the way out. A lady named Ethel Early, who was the HR lady, as I was walking down the hall, she saw me and she came out. She said, hold on just a second. Can you come in here and talk to me? I said, sure. She said, have you noticed that we're starting a plant group to do emergency medical and plant security? Mm-hmm. And I said, well, I had seen that posting on the wall and I read it, but I said, she said, well, are you going to apply for that? And I said, no. I said, I'm making more money as an electrician and earning overtime than you've posted on that sheet, because they put down what the dollars would be. Right. She said, well, I know, but she said, we're going to need a supervisor. And I said, well, you didn't say that. She said, no, but we're going to need a supervisor, and you probably ought to go home and think about this. And I said, okay.
They kind of already had you picked out, it seems like.
Yeah, I guess it was my time at Dallas probably
Right. Yeah.
that made him think that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went home and I thought about it and I prayed about it. And I thought, okay. So I came back in, interviewed with Bob Lewin Shipping and Dennis Beach,
Mm-hmm.
vice president. He was going to be the one over the group.
Okay.
And we had a good interview, and they offered me the job, and I took it. They allowed me to name the group, and I called it Protective Services. We were EMS. We were going to go. They took, I think there was 12 people plus me in the group. They sent us all to EMT school up at Parkland.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I went to EMT school up there, and part of probably one of the fun experiences in the EMT school was getting to ride out with Dallas.
Yeah.
On,
I'm sure.
703 on, downtown right next to Baylor, close to
Mm-hmm.
Baylor. That was a wild 24 hours.
I bet it was.
But anyway, in the meantime, as soon as I had moved to Midlothian back in 1979, late in 79,
Mm-hmm.
because of my desire to be in the fire service again, I went ahead and joined the volunteer fire department.
Okay.
In the midst of doing that, I think it was maybe 2 or 3 years after I joined, Paul Roark, who was our second assistant fire chief,
Mm-hmm.
he quit. He resigned. He was an older fellow.
Okay.
And I don't remember why they chose me as second assistant, but I got elected to fill his spot.
Okay.
So I felt pretty good about myself.
Right. Yeah.
And that's a problem that I had early on, feeling pretty good about myself.
Mm-hmm.
So time rocked on, and I think maybe 2 years later, they unelected me as second assistant and elected me training officer. And I thought, wow, that's like a step down,
Yeah.
And my pride sitting there, hanging
Right.
out. But I said, okay, all right, I'm the training officer. I'm going to do the best I can as a training officer. And I had already noted some things in my own mind that I thought we could be doing better.
Right.
At that point in time, we were meeting 2 times a month, 2 Monday nights a month. The first Monday night was a business meeting.
Okay.
The second Monday night, which was 2 weeks later, was a training meeting. Okay. So I was responsible as training officer to work out the subject and what I wanted to talk on for that session.
Right.
Interestingly enough, what I considered a demotion to training officer
mm-hmm.
actually worked really well in my favor.
Okay.
Because I was able to, as an instructor, you always learn more than you teach.
Absolutely.
And so I had to study. I had never been in the paid fire service that long.
Right.
And so I got a bunch of books.
Yeah.
And I started reading.
So you kind of were starting from a disadvantage almost.
I did.
Yeah.
I knew enough to know what it was like to work on a shift in a fire station.
Right. You knew enough to be dangerous.
Basically.
Yeah.
Not to mention that when I served at Mesquite in 1974,
mm-hmm.
there was no training academy.
Right.
There was no fire certification at the state level.
Just put you on and go, huh?
Yeah, basically, I showed up for my first day at work, and they
mm-hmm.
gave me uniform, including dress uniform.
Mm-hmm.
They gave me a cotton duck turnout coat with, basically, it was a 3/4 coat.
Okay.
Pull-up rubber boots.
Yeah. Yep.
And then they said, okay, you can also have turnout pants and some standard boots to go with that if you want to wear them. And I said, okay. So I did not, because nobody else did. I didn't wear those pants and those shorter boots for most of my time.
Is that more or less like what we have today, the shorter pants and boots? What was the reason behind nobody wearing that?
I think just...
it wasn't cool?
Well, I think probably just the history, the way they had grown up.
Yeah, the tradition. The
tradition on the department. They also, at the time, for air packs,
mm-hmm.
we had, and it's a Mesquite now.
Right.
I worked at Galloway, the #1 station.
Yeah.
And we had an engine and a booster truck, what they call the booster truck.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had a structure fire, both of you would go to the structure fire. The booster would go first, and the engine would come behind.
Mm-hmm.
And if it was a working fire, then the booster truck would lay lines down to where they were going to fight the fire, and the engine hook on and supply it.
Okay.
And so they were really flush with air packs. They had two on the engine.
Yeah.
They kept them in the boxes,
Right. Yeah.
Scott packs in the
Yes,
boxes.
sir. The old steel bottles.
Yes, sir. 30-minute bottles, but they had 2 cub packs that they put on the hose bed of the booster truck.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to wear them, that's the way it was explained to me.
Right.
These are here if you want to wear them.
Yeah.
And they showed me, how to put it on and use it. And I thought, well, that's a pretty good idea, But in fact, I'll never forget the first time I wore one in a structure fire. We'd put the fire out, and we were kind of doing a little overhaul, and it hadn't been that bad of a fire. But one of the firemen came in to give us some tools, and he didn't have anything on. No turnout gear, no pack or anything.
Yeah.
And he came in and just handed us, and it ran right back out. And I thought, well, you need an air pack to be in here.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting to, really you think about it. I mean, from some of the people that I've talked to up until like the 90s, air packs weren't really like a huge thing.
Right.
So there was guys not wearing air packs in the 90s, which, I mean, to think about that, it's not a huge difference from today, and even into the early 2000s, not everybody was wearing air packs. So it's just, it was a different time for sure. So you kind of got started. I didn't know that you were a volunteer prior to, and then you were put in that position and then kind of became the fire chief. It seems like you were the best option because you had already been kind of doing it for a period of time. With you having most of your career was in the police service and then coming into the fire service, I can imagine when you became the paid fire chief was there a lot of, was it hard to take that position and to lead guys who had been doing it for a while?
Well, probably not as hard as it would have been if it had been a paid department.
Right.
We were in a volunteer mode. We had, in fact, at the time that I joined the department in 1979, we had probably 27 or 28 volunteers.
Okay.
Some of those volunteers would help on the city's ambulance department.
Right.
We had actually been helping the ambulance. The ambulance department was formed as an ambulance department in 1975 because the funeral home that was running the ambulance service brought their hearse ambulance over.
Yes, I can imagine how that looked.
And they dropped it off. They parked it on the apron of the volunteer fire department. They took the keys to the city secretary and they said, "We're not in the business anymore. This is y'all's to operate." Wow. It just so happened that I believe Gary Tier worked as a city employee, and I think he operated equipment, maybe in public works. I didn't ever know him well at that point in time, obviously, but he was given the responsibility of overseeing the ambulance until they could get somebody trained in there.
Yeah.
Well, Gary liked the thought of it, and he went on his own and became an EMT.
Okay.
And then started working on his paramedic. We had a city administrator at the time named Howard Brown. Gary got his paramedic certification, and he went to Howard after he got that certification. He said, "Howard, I'm a paramedic now, and I need the city to give me some extra equipment and supplies." And Howard said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, I need a defibrillator so that I can put it on a person that's having heart issues, and I could diagnose a little bit what's going on. Right. And then I need something in terms of paddles to be able to shock if I need to do that. I need drugs to administer, and I need to be able to intubate." And Howard said, "Well, we've gotten along pretty well without all that stuff up to now. Just run the ambulance." I can't remember how long it was after that meeting, but not a long time after it, Howard himself driving down Sharkey Hill toward 287 or toward Old Fort Worth Highway at the time.
Yes, sir.
He had a heart attack.
Oh, wow.
He pulled off on the side of the road. They called the ambulance. Gary shows up. And I forget who was with him, but they loaded Howard into the ambulance and started transporting him to the hospital. And Gary was sitting there in the back of the ambulance looking at him. He said, "Howard, I'd like to be able to put a monitor on you to see how you're doing, see what's going on
I
with
can
your heart.
only
I'd like to
imagine.
be able to give you some drugs,
Right.
I'd maybe even take away some of the pain, but I don't have anything. They got him to the hospital. He didn't die. He recovered.
Mm-hmm.
He came back to work a month or so later and called Gary into the office and said, now, what was it we needed?
I can only imagine that conversation in the back of that little ambulance there. You know, I'd love to help you out, but there's a guy at the city that thinks we don't need all that stuff. Oh man, it's unfortunate, but it's very funny. It's very funny.
Gary served as the head of the ambulance department, and we had gotten up to, I think, 3 other employees and Gary. And 1986 rolled around, and Chuck Pinto came in as the new city manager. Actually, our first city manager.
Okay.
Hired for the princely sum of $50,000 a year.
Wow.
And a car.
Oh, nice.
Those of us that read the local paper said, "What?
Yeah.
That's a king's fortune there.
Yeah.
He sure is. I wonder how good he really is."
Yeah.
Well, Chuck would get out not too long after he got here. He came to a couple of fire scenes, and after it was over, he helped us roll hose.
Oh, wow.
And he was just observing, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Didn't stick his nose in, make any comments or anything.
Yeah.
But when time came to, in his mind, upgrade the fire department, he reasoned that, why am I paying guys to sit here and wait on an ambulance call? We've got fire equipment that's sitting over here. Nobody's maintaining it. And if the fire call comes in, you've got a whole different bunch of volunteers coming in to man that. Why not create a combination fire department?
Right.
And have paid people, take these ambulance people that are already EMS certified and get them fire certified. And so that's what he did in March of 1987, 3 months after I became fire chief. He said, we're going to have a combination fire department. And I said, I wasn't paid.
Right.
And I said, well, okay, Chuck, but who's going to supervise them?
Right.
I mean, they're here long shifts. I'm not here.
Right.
Who's going to supervise them? He said, on paper, I'll be their supervisor, but you're going to do it. And I said, okay, thank you very much. And I thought to myself, this is not probably going to work very well.
Right. Yeah.
And it didn't.
Yeah.
But I did my best.
Yeah.
And when the situation arose that one of them had, in my mind, let the public down and failed his responsibilities to take care of a patient,
right, I
recommended his termination. And Chuck stood behind me.
Well, that's good. At least he understood and had your back. So that's good.
And the experience I had at the police department, I supervised people at the police department. And I also had been exposed, because of the promotional process and all the rules and regulations that we had to follow as police officers. I'd been exposed to, things like general orders, SOPs. Right. So what I had done right after I took over as volunteer fire chief, we didn't really have anything written down.
Kind of got it all situated.
Yeah. And I took time and made up the first set of general orders, and which were just kind of organizational.
Which you kind of have to have something to go off of,
yes, you do.
Especially if you're going to, like he said, if you're transitioning into a combination department and then, starting to have guys for long periods of time, you kind of can't shove a bunch of firemen in a firehouse and not have some rules,
No. And what we really needed at the time was help with our response to incidents.
Right.
We needed to be more organized. We needed to decide who's going to go, how many are going to go. Right. What we had done as volunteers up till that point in time was, if a call came in, doesn't matter what it was, grass fire, structure fire, car wreck, you name it.
Right.
The first 4 or 5 people that got there would man our first out piece of equipment, and they had settled at the time. We had pumpers, but we actually would respond first, a high pressure John Bean grass fire truck. It had a good tank of water on it.
Yeah.
But the only pump on it was the high pressure John Bean. I don't know if you've ever seen one of those.
No, I don't think I have.
You got 2 red lines, and that's it wasn't the only outlet, but it was the only hose that was pre-connected.
Right.
2 reels, one on each side, and each of them had what looked like a gun and you could adjust the spray pattern this way, and you pull the trigger.
I'm sure the gallons per minute weren't very high on that thing.
No,
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly. Somewhere around probably 30 gallons a minute, 30 or 40 gallons a minute.
Not enough for a good working fire.
Well, it depends on how you want to fight the fire.
Right, sure.
If you want to do what Lloyd Lehman said you should do, and that's keep everything buttoned up, stick a hose in the window, and let steam do the work for you.
That'll work. Yeah.
That high pressure steam, worked very well, but you could also burn yourself pretty good on it.
Oh, you could. Yeah. If you weren't doing it right, you definitely could get burned. I can see that.
And the nozzle reaction on those high pressure guns was a lot more than 1.5 inches.
Oh, yeah.
So,
so let's move to kind of a different direction here. So where did you grow up?
Well, initially in Richardson, Texas.
Okay.
I was born in 1948.
Mm-hmm.
Born in Dallas, and Mom and Dad moved to Richardson shortly thereafter. I was in Richardson until the 5th grade. About halfway through the 5th grade, my dad, who worked for Magnolia Petroleum in downtown Dallas, Flying Red Horse, he got transferred. They gave him a choice of going to Houston or Midland. Thankfully, he took Midland.
Oh, really? You didn't want to go to Houston?
He didn't. No, and I'm so glad I didn't grow up in Houston.
Yeah.
From what I've learned since.
Yeah, true.
But Midland was a great town for a kid to grow up in because it was West Texas, wide streets, laid back people. Everybody, I'm sure we had bad people in the community, but they weren't in the limelight. You were basically.
There was probably just a small number, and they didn't
cause much trouble.
Yeah. And the trouble they're causing, like you said, probably wasn't much. Yeah.
No. But of course, it's an oil field environment.
Right.
And Midland was the white collar. Odessa was the blue collar.
Okay.
And I don't know how much the oil industry you've observed, but it's either boom or bust.
Oh, yeah.
And when it was boom, Odessa was going like crazy. And Midland was all happy. And if it went bust, well, everybody's like this.
Yeah.
I think at the time, the population out there was about 45 or 50,000 people in Midland.
Yeah.
And we had moved from a city that was barely 10, Richardson at that time.
That was a big time for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a big change.
It was.
Okay.
And then I went for a short period of time after graduating. I went to Texas Tech.
Okay.
I was going to be an engineer.
I got you. Went to school to be an engineer.
Yeah. That's the way it started.
Yeah.
I'd always had I was a ham radio operator as a kid.
Okay.
Enjoyed electronics.
Yeah.
Put together color TV kits from Heathkit.
Okay.
So I thought electrical engineering was my bag.
Right.
Well, I got to college and understood that they were doing it at the particle level, not the putting the kits together level.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't interested in that. So I changed to mechanical engineering, went in that for about 1.5 years, and then changed finally to industrial engineering.
Okay.
And by that point in time, I had been watching too much Adam 12 on TV.
Right.
I thought that what I really wanted to do was go clean up the world.
Right.
The Vietnam War was going on during that period of time. I had skated on the draft because my birthday was in the lottery. It was like 300 and something.
Yeah.
So I didn't get drafted.
Okay.
And I took the college deferment to begin with. When the draft lottery came out and I was almost impossible to go get drafted, I gave up the deferment. But there, in the back of my mind, there was always a question, well, you got courage?
Yeah.
You have guts?
Yeah.
Can you do tough things or dangerous things?
Right.
And so I got all enamored with the idea of being a cop and applied to Dallas and was accepted and went there to start with.
Was it emergency that got you hooked on being a fireman, or?
Probably. Well, that plus, while I was in the Dallas Police Department, I'd been there not very long. And the department started doing recruiting programs all across the nation because they needed more police officers. And one of the places they went to was Tennessee. And I want to say it was Murfreesboro, Tennessee, where a fireman by the name of Jack Foraker, he was a fireman. He took the recruiting come on from Dallas and became a Dallas police officer.
Really?
So we were thrown together briefly in
Right.
I guess it was I think we were in personnel at the time. They were waiting to start academy classes and everything. And he started telling me about, he just loved firefighting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he just ate it up.
Yeah.
And I said, why did you come here? You know,
Yeah.
if you like firefighting that much.
Right.
He said, well, it was a good raise, and I got a kid, and you know, my wife agreed to come, and so here I am.
Yeah.
He lasted 1 year.
And then went right back.
Went back to fire. He went to Mesquite.
Oh, okay.
But I had made friends with him, so now he's telling me how great it is on Mesquite.
Right. Yeah.
So that's why I went to Mesquite.
Okay.
He just
Okay.
talked me into it after about 2.5 years on the force.
Yeah.
That's enough time, by the way, to get cynical.
Yeah. Yeah, for
and
sure.
see that you're not going to clean up crime.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not as glamorous as they make it out to be.
No.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
I will say back then, though, if I was going to be a police officer, that was the right place and the right time to do it.
Right.
We did not suffer from public disapproval.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Definitely a different time now versus then.
Totally
Different time. Oh, for sure. So, just a quick question about Mesquite. In Mesquite, did y'all get to ride tailboard?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The mythical tailboard.
That, you know, I have often felt sorry for young men who have never had that experience.
Right.
Because it was a blast. It was also a little dangerous.
Right, for sure.
You know, we would back then. The idea among all these guys in Mesquite were basically Dallas rejects.
Right.
They had all tried to get on Dallas, so they wound up in Mesquite, and they were proud of it too. Right. By the way,
that's funny.
But they would you'd respond to a fire call. Nowadays, you know, you're encouraged to walk with purpose.
Right.
You know, you don't lollygag.
Right.
But you don't run to the truck. You better get out to the truck, or they were gone.
They're going to leave you, huh?
Yeah, and so, you know, you set your stuff out by the tailboard, ran out there and jumped up on the tailboard, sliding your boots on, getting on the tailboard, and we didn't have straps. So you got to hook one elbow.
You better hang on.
You tried to get your coat on before they rolled, but if you couldn't, you were putting it on and holding on with this arm and then holding on with this arm.
Okay, yeah. One of my fire instructors, I went to the fire academy in South Carolina. One of my fire instructors, he grew up in West Virginia, and man, I wish I could, Morgantown. And his dad was a fireman, so he talks about as a kid riding tailboard with his dad, and he would, you know, have that strap behind him, but his dad would be hanging on to him, putting his coat on and everything, and then when he got his coat on, he'd pick him up and put him on the hose bed, and he said he'd crawl up there to the front cab of those guys and was like, "Y'all ready to go to this fire?" And, golly, man.
Well, one night we went on a grass fire on that booster. I rode the booster truck. It was really funny. The guy next to me, and I'm trying to recall his name now, he wound up being an assistant chief eventually, but he was about 1.5 times my height. And so we looked like Mutt and Jeff back there on the tailboard.
Yeah.
But riding down the street, going to this grass fire, we hit a bump, and my feet came about that high off the tailboard. It's a good thing I was holding on.
Oh, yeah.
That was as close as I came
to
coming off.
Coming off of it.
And unfortunately, when we fought grass fires, we didn't have pump and roll.
Oh, yeah.
So you'd drag the red line off, and you'd fight it, and then the truck would move, and then you'd fight some more, and then wears you out.
Yeah, I'm sure it does.
Sure
it does. So whenever you became fire chief, you were the only person to be put on as a paid individual, right? Other paid individuals came later,
no, actually, because of Chuck changing us to a combination department, and I was still volunteer when that happened, we actually had 5 members of the ambulance department that were paid. They were ID numbers 1 through 5.
Okay.
We had added our building. Actually, he was an electrical inspector of the city. He was not a volunteer firefighter. Chuck dismissed the building official, kept the electrical inspector, sent him to building official school, but also he needed somebody to supervise him. So he told me, Chuck, "Hey, you're gonna supervise a building official." I said, "What?"
Okay.
He said, "Yeah," and it just so happened Travis Crump was the building official. Travis just loved emergency stuff, and he wanted to carry a gun, basically.
Okay.
And so he wanted to, you know, eventually become the fire marshal if he could.
Right.
But he was put into the fire department by
Mhm.
Chuck, and then he had to go to fire school and get certified
Yeah.
as a firefighter. And I think he also was certified as an EMT,
Okay.
but he never went to paramedic. And eventually he moved on to a different city and actually got into what he wanted to get into
I got you.
out of the fire service.
I got you.
But we had those 6 people that
Mhm.
were paid before I was paid.
Do you remember who those 6 people were?
Well, Gary Tier was the number 1 guy,
Mhm.
the first guy.
Right.
Number 2 was his next hire, which was Billy Skipper.
Okay.
Let's see. Number 3 would have been Norman Pruitt.
Okay.
Number 4 was Jimmy Budwin.
Okay.
Number 5 was Robert Cunningham.
Okay. All those names sound familiar. I think I've heard.
Well, let me
almost
think.
all
Let me
of them.
back up one more step. Let me think. Robert did not start until Billy was freed up for other opportunities.
Okay.
And so I can't remember. I don't think there was another paid person other than those that I've mentioned to you.
Okay.
And then, of course, Travis Crump was
Right.
number 6. And then I became number 7.
I got you.
Stacy Rosser, whom you interviewed,
Mm-hmm.
was, I believe his ID was 9.
I think that's right.
I believe that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what was your first shift as the paid fire chief like? What was your first? Do you remember that day?
Well, oddly enough, I became a paid fire chief on June the 14th of 1988,
Mm-hmm.
which was 17 years to the day since I joined the Dallas Police Department.
Oh, really?
This was weird. I don't remember anything particularly
Out of the
unique
ordinary,
about that day. I mean, I had worked at Chaparral Steel all the
Mhm.
way up to being transitioned to paid.
Right.
And that was it was putting extra hours on me because I had a full-time job at Chaparral.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would stop by the fire station for an hour or 2 after work.
So you were still working at Chaparral as you were the paid fire chief.
Nope.
Oh, okay.
I was working at Chaparral. I was a volunteer fire
Oh,
chief.
okay.
But remember, you're the supervisor.
Right. Yeah.
So I felt like I needed to go by the fire station, see what was going on, and
Right.
have talks with them and
Trying
everything.
to keep up with everything.
Mhm.
Okay.
So it was, we were not that busy back then.
Right. Right.
It was we might run 35 or 40 calls a month
Okay.
to start with. I mean, when I first joined the department, a good month as a volunteer was about 26 to 30 calls.
Okay.
And maybe by the time I got on paid,
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember exactly, but we were probably up a little more than that. We were answering more EMS calls than anything.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Obviously.
I'm sure. Yeah, that's the one that always creeps up there. Let's see. So you already kind of talked about who got hired with. Do you remember? So minus your Mesquite time, do you remember your first fire in Midlothian as the chief, as the paid chief?
I remember one fairly close to the time.
Okay.
I'd have to go. I don't even know if I could find a record of it, but
Right.
we got a call. Of course, were you here before they tore down the old Station 1?
I was actually here for Old Station 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that station was that building was built in 1965.
Correct.
They transitioned out of the old fire hall
Mm-hmm.
into that building
Yes, sir.
in 1965, and we remodeled it. It had not been remodeled when I first became paid fire chief,
Mm-hmm.
but we were in that building. I was on duty, and we got a fire call on 7th, which is just one block over and about a block down. And there was like from the corner, there was one house, and then the house on fire, and then another house.
Mm-hmm.
And the house on fire was going this way
Oh.
to 2 other residences.
Yeah.
Oh. And so we started calling for help.
Mm-hmm.
We had everybody that we could get there. And of course, it's middle of the morning, as I recall it. So there's not that many volunteers that
Right.
would show up. I don't remember. I think we probably got help from, I don't remember if it's Cedar Hill or Waxahachie. But the thing that I remember the most about it is I'm sitting there trying to run the fire.
Mhm.
We didn't have fire command back then.
Right. Right.
And we didn't have that good a radio set up back then. And all the guys didn't have portables.
Right.
And so it was just kind of like you move around and tell people what to do. And this guy comes up from the street behind me
Mm-hmm.
and he says, could I be of help? And I look around, and I'd never seen him before.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "I'm a Fort Worth fireman. Can I help you?" And I said, "Yeah." Grab a hose.
Yeah, do something.
Do something.
Yeah, quit standing there.
Yeah. And so he helped out for the rest of the fire, helped us put it out, helped us roll hose. Finally came up and introduced himself, Terry Benedict.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a resident of Midlothian. Well, he wasn't on our fire department, but I asked him, I said, "Well, Terry, man, I really appreciate your help." I said, "You ever thought about getting on the volunteer, being a volunteer here in the city?" And he said, "No, not really." And I said, "Well, why don't you?"
Yeah.
Because we could use the experience,
right?
For
sure.
And so he thought about it, and he came join the fire department. It turned out not too long after that, he went into their communications branch
Mm-hmm.
and became one of the fire dispatchers and served the rest of his career in Fort Worth in their fire department communications or alarm center.
Yeah.
But he was a very faithful volunteer, and at one point in time became one of the volunteer officers on the department.
Okay.
He finally, we had a volunteer retirement system that was
right.
Not too good.
Right. Yeah.
And then we transitioned to a little bit better retirement system. And so some of the guys, such as Terry, when they joined, we actually were able to give them a little bit better future in terms of some money once they retired.
Yeah. Yeah.
We also at the time had a man named Bob Robinson,
mm-hmm.
who was a
Budget Bob.
His reputation is still out there.
It's still out there, yes, sir. We've run him a handful of times here recently. Yeah.
Well, he had been on the city council,
mm-hmm.
And I got to tell you something he said to me. It was about the time I was becoming a paid fire chief.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember if it was just before I accepted it or right after I'd accepted it, but he caught me in the hallway of the city office there in that building, and he said, "David, I know you probably feel like that you can handle everything from a technical point of view here, but," he said, "have you considered the politics?" And what politics?
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Well, I mean, I just, what I'm going to do is do the best I know to do, and hopefully people will recognize that I'm doing a good job."
Right.
He said, "Oh, okay.
Good luck."
Boy, you talk about politics in a small town.
Oh, I'm sure. I can only imagine. I mean, as big as Midlothian is now, I'm sure there's still just a lot of small town politics that goes on.
Well,
here and there.
We did not have, thank goodness, we didn't have any social media back then.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You didn't have to worry about getting shot on that side.
Yeah,
but we did have a newspaper, a daily newspaper,
mm-hmm.
and then the Waxahachie Daily Light was also one of our newspapers that people read.
Right.
And so that's kind of the way that fire department activities and events were covered,
mm-hmm.
By those papers. And the politics would get into the paper too.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So
I can imagine.
I can just tell you that I was naive.
Mm-hmm.
I really thought that I'd be judged on my competency to run a good fire department.
Right.
No, not so much.
I got you.
But Bob stayed with us. Bob was the last volunteer to retire.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say that he hung it up, I believe it was 2010, something like that.
Yeah, I was going to say somewhere around 2013, but 2010.
Well, it might be 2013.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head either, but
I have to plead old timer's disease.
Okay, we'll accept your plea. So you already talked about your first fire that you kind of remember, but I'm sure over your time you've had some other fires. What were some of your more notable fires in your career that you?
Well, I don't know if this makes any sense to you, but as I was fire chief for a while, you kind of, and I became good friends with David Hudgens, who was the fire chief in Waxahachie.
Mm-hmm.
He had come to Waxahachie as fire chief in 1986, before I became the volunteer fire chief here. He was the fire chief, paid fire chief in Waxahachie.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get out of my, as a volunteer fire chief, I didn't go try to introduce myself to paid fire chiefs.
Right, for sure.
I just didn't.
Right.
And so it was actually a couple of fires over there that brought me into contact with him enough to get to know him and become friends with him. they had a huge fire over there. I want to say it was probably 89 or 90 at Secure Corporation. And it involved chemicals and all kinds of flammable stuff. And there's a picture I did scrapbooking back then.
Okay.
And I've got a picture in the newspaper of about, I don't know, 200 or 300 foot fireball. It came off of one of the tanks over there when we were fighting the fire.
Yeah.
But they called help from all around, so Midlothian went over there. That was notable. As far as, after a year or two or three and getting to be friends with a paid fire chief, I'd eat lunch with him and listen to his stories.
Right.
And I'd get to thinking, well, I'd like to command a big fire. I'd like to have a big fire.
Yeah. Speaking into existence.
1995, December the 1st. We'd been up early that morning, I think 2 or 3 a.m. on a mobile home fire. And it was out kind of to the west side of the community. I'm trying to think of what street it was off of. It was north of 67, in between 67 and 287. So it was probably Old Fort Worth Road.
Probably.
Out in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
I just don't recall the exact address. It was about 7:15, somewhere in the morning, that we had finally, and we had called mutual aid on that. We called for Waxahachie to come and Cedar Hill to come help us on that fire. We were all out, rolling up hose, and I get a call on the radio. They put out an alarm for a fire at the Safe Tire Company. And Safe Tire had been in Midlothian for about 2.5 years, been operating for about 2.5 or 3 years. They came in 92. At the time, I was concerned, when they started telling me what they were going to do, shred tires, pile them up.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, what if that thing catches on fire,
Right.
I didn't know enough to be super skeptical when the guy from Safe Tire tells me, oh, you don't need to worry about that. If the tires catch on fire because of the way they're stacked, the outer layer just burns and it melts and it kind of smothers the fire, and I'm going, well, we made them anyway because they were outside the city water system.
Okay.
We made the environmental people of the state of Texas made them put in 2 great big holding pits or tanks for water runoff. In other words, rainwater.
Right.
They didn't want rainwater washing through all this petroleum-based stuff and getting off into the outside the territory. So they put in these 2 diagonally opposite pits, and we took the opportunity as the fire service. I said, okay, I want you to put a dry standpipe. I want the end of it out there at the bottom of that pit, and I want the dry standpipe up on the bank here where we can run up and draft from the tank.
Right.
And they did that on both pits. For 2.5 years or 3 years maybe, we didn't have any problems out there. No fires, no nothing.
Right.
They had been shredding these tires for all that length of time. And what would happen, they would shred the tires, and a lot of them were steel belted radials. All different sizes of pieces of tires, but the ones that they would discard, it was called the discard pile, I think. They had little scraps of steel cord still in them, and bits of rubber adhering to the wire.
Okay.
But I know what it was. It was called a wire pile.
Okay.
Because they basically use magnets to take all that small stuff away from the big chips.
Right.
And they would deposit that in a wire pile. Well, it started out small and grew over time. And the way they tried to keep the wire pile manageable is they'd run over it with bulldozers and pack it down and pack it down and pack it down. They'd been doing that for 3 years. And they'd created a large wire pile. So they decided, no communication with us, obviously, but they decided on the morning of the fire that they were going to transfer this scrap wire to, I guess, a recycler for metal of some sort. And they had I think it was a track front end shovel or whatever they called that.
Yeah.
And they would pull cable dumps up next to it and dig down in the pile and dump, and they had filled, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 of these cable dump trucks, and they had hauled off, and this guy was digging in the same spot. And by his testimony, the operator of the shovel, he said, I scooped up the next bucket and I put it over in the truck, and when I turned around, there was this little small flame at the bottom of the hole.
Yeah.
And he said, I pulled another bit, and he said it got bigger. And
it just kept getting bigger.
It kept getting bigger. And when they put out the alarm, I remember my back was to the tire company, and where? Safe Tire? I turned around and looked, and this little thin column of black smoke coming up. And I thought, So I jumped in my fire chief's car and beat everybody else over there, And by that time, the wire pile was going pretty good. And we had that day, unfortunately, a southerly wind at about 25 mile an hour wind as it got light.
Right.
Those the scrap tire chip piles were huge, like 20, 25 feet tall. They were separated initially by a 20-foot distance, but by the time they had it all piled up then, it was down to about a 10-foot lane between each of them.
Yeah.
And that wind was going right down in between them. And the wire pile finally got the first chip pile hot enough on the east side to start smoking. And the next thing you know, it was on fire.
Oh, yeah, it was going.
And it came up over the top of that thing and went down this side, lit the next one, the next one.
Kept going and going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, we started calling all the help I could get.
Yeah.
Waxahachie came back, Cedar Hill came back, Duncanville came, DeSoto showed up with an aerial. Waxahachie had an aerial. We were drafting from the pits trying to supply the aerials.
How long did you go before you ran out of that?
Well, actually, we never ran out of it.
Oh, really?
And here's why.
It was replenishing itself?
Yeah.
Okay.
And on top of that, what happened was, I forget at what point, but sometime that morning, it's kind of a blur because we were, it was a madhouse.
96 hours, I think, continuous?
Well, the fire department had equipment on scene for 5 days. I stayed awake for 26 or 27 hours because I had waked up on that mobile home fire.
Yeah.
And by the time the 26th or 27th hour got around, I was loopy.
Yeah, for sure.
And my good friend David Hudgens agreed to man we had this little command post trailer.
I've got a bunch of pictures of that incident.
Yes.
So yeah, I know what you're talking
I've
about.
actually got a video that the local news, like Channel 8, Channel 5, Channel 4. I've got pictures from a satellite.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. You can see the smoke plume.
Oh, wow.
It was the biggest in terms of area, in terms of duration, biggest fire I've ever been to.
Right.
And it totally satisfied my desire to command.
I bet you never wanted one again.
I never asked for another one.
Yeah.
I never did. But, we had 22, by the time it was all over with, we had 22 fire departments.
Oh, wow.
Every fire department in Ellis County, most every fire department, most of the volunteer fire departments and the paid departments, even Ennis, I think, attended. And we had Cedar Hill and DeSoto and I think Duncanville, maybe even Lancaster. I don't remember. I just remember that it was very massive.
Oh, yeah.
One of the things that happened, and I can't remember who arranged for it, but some vac trucks showed up, and they would haul in water. At first, they were hauling water to dump it in those ponds so we would have water to draft. But then they transitioned to hauling the excess out because all the runoff was going into those.
Oh, yeah.
And the way we finally put that fire out, I say we didn't put it out.
Yeah.
It was a oil well firefighting company from, I believe, Mauriceville, Texas. I can't remember, I don't remember right off the top of my head the name of the company. I think it started with a W. They brought some heavy artillery. They brought trailer-mounted
I saw the pictures.
Guns, water cannons, 10,000 gallons a minute.
Wow.
And they brought the pumps trailer-mounted pumps to drive that, and they managed to finally overwhelm it.
Yeah.
But what really stopped it more than them is Chaparral Steel and TXI sent over these great big rubber tire with chains on them, front end loaders, and they started moving all that non-burned rubber
and peeling it.
Yeah, I mean, they started taking it off the pile and shoving it farther away, and they were the ones that made the fire break that stopped the progression of it.
Right.
I think maybe at least half of their stock burned, and the rest of it was sitting there. It was a mess.
Oh, I'm sure.
We lost, I don't know how many 100 feet of hose, turnout gear, anything that was out there and exposed to it, basically no good anymore.
Yeah.
And the company itself, Safe Tire, went bankrupt.
I'm sure they did. Sure they did. It'd be hard to recover from something like that.
Yeah, and I asked it's a state fire marshal. He showed up, and some other people everybody and his dog wanted to help.
I'm sure.
But I was asking him, I said, how did this thing start? And they did a little background, a little talking to witnesses and scratching their heads, and they finally came to him and said, spontaneous combustion. I said, what? He said, if you pile all that stuff up and compress it and compress it and compress it, he said, what does rusting metal do? Gives off heat.
True.
You don't let the heat out. It builds up. It's kind of like a hay fire.
Yeah.
It builds up in the center, and then all it needs is a little oxygen. And that guy, that last bucket that he
pulled out,
gave the oxygen down in the very hottest part of that pile, and off we went to the races.
Kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So,
so other than fires, I'm sure you've been on plenty of calls. Is there any calls that you still remember to this day that kind of stick with you?
I remember a major accident one day. During the day, Tom Montgomery was on duty as a fireman, and he was probably the first person on scene. He and his partner, and I forget who was working with him, but it was out toward Mansfield. And it was while we still had 2-lane Highway 287.
Yes, sir.
And as I recall, this was probably about where the old country club is out there. Somehow or another, I don't remember all the specifics, except it involved a cable dump truck coming toward Midlothian, and this smaller vehicle headed toward that, and they wound up having a head-on out there. And it hit with such force that the motor from the vehicle was thrown back towards Midlothian.
Wow.
200 or 300 feet. I mean, it's just motor sitting out in the highway.
Yeah.
And when Tom got up on it, he described it, just briefly what he saw. And he said, how did he put it? Looks like a car with a bunch of junk in it. And I thought, well, what it was a car with 2 people still in it, and they were on fire.
Oh, wow.
And they didn't stand a chance. They were dead.
Yeah, for sure.
When hit, but then they burned up too.
Yeah.
It was pretty gross.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And we've had, I've been maybe to 2 other fires that we had fatalities on. Sometimes they're recognizable, sometimes they're not.
Yeah.
You got to dig through the
debris.
ashes.
Yeah.
But those, and really some of my bigger fires that I've been on with mutual aid.
Yeah.
The Waxahachie. Probably there was another 1 or 2 besides that Secure Corporation. There was one day, and it was over at the company that makes Hardy Plank. So it's Hardy Company over there. They had a fire in their building shop over there, and of course they got machine line with big machines, grinders and cutters and all that kind of lathes and whatnot. Outside that building, there's this huge ground-mounted transformer that supplied power to the whole building.
Right.
And so I got there on the fire call. David already had the command post set up, and we were, I don't know how many feet we were from that transformer, but I probably pulled up ahead of him. I was probably closer to the transformer than the command post was, maybe. Anyway, close enough.
Right.
And I'd gotten out of the car and was standing there talking. What we didn't realize was the guys on the inside told the plant, we need to shut the electricity down, shut these machines off.
Right.
Well, some guy got the brilliant idea of going to the main incoming power and just going bam like that. So we're standing there talking at the command post, and all of a sudden this transformer starts going, and he catches your attention, and then it goes boom.
Oh, wow.
And people tell me, I forgot, I don't remember this, okay? And I think they're exaggerating, but they said that when I turned to run, I made 3 complete circuits around 1 foot.
Before you actually took off anywhere?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. It was exciting. I felt like, well, if we don't get out of here, we're going to get burned.
Yeah.
At the very least.
That's funny.
But and then the biggest fire outside of the safe tire fire that I ever attended, I guess, was the Magna Blend fire over there.
Actually, I got a funny story about this. So one of our guys that we hired, that was actually his batch that caught fire.
Really?
So he was working at Magna Blend when that happened.
Oh, I'd love to talk to him.
Yeah. His name's Dalton Hunter.
He's still here, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I might have met him.
Yeah, you might have.
He's
one of our, I don't want to say newer guys, but in the last couple of years that we've hired. So, yeah.
Well, Dale was the assistant chief at the time, and Dale and I both responded. He got a little ahead of me, and he got to the command post before I did, so he stayed put with David Hudgens to give us, relay communications.
Right.
And so when I got there and saw Dale was there, I thought, well, and Red Oak's fire chief was there, Eric Thompson. So those 2 fire chiefs and David were all at the command post, and I thought, what good am I going to be at the command post? So I just told David, I said, I'm going to drive around the other side of the fire. And so I did. I drove around to the east side of the fire. And on the east side, this was all burning back down here where it started. And that was kind of on the west end of the building. And then you had, I guess, what turned out to be storage on down toward the east. And the storage end of the building was maybe, I don't know, 200 or 300 feet from some railroad tracks. And on the railroad tracks were some tank cars. No idea what was in them.
Right.
The door on the east end of that building was large overhead door, wide open.
Right.
And you could look in, but you couldn't see the fire. It was dark.
Right.
But on the edges are all these carboys, plastic carboys with kind of a yellowish looking liquid in them.
Right.
Didn't think much about it because the fire wasn't there.
Right.
We came in with 1 engine and set up on that end, and we were going to put a monitor on the ground so we could shoot in through the door if it got to us.
Right.
Behind us, or let's see, we pulled in, we were kind of on the south side. On the north side off the service road of 287 comes the Ennis aerial.
Yes.
And they came and set up and put the outriggers out and started raising the basket. And two firemen in it. Well, I wasn't paying a lot of attention to that. I was trying to help our guys, set up this monitor. And at first they had put the engine right there in the door with the monitor. I said, hey guys, no, move the engine.
Right.
If it comes down here, we don't want the engine in the way of this fire. Move a little bit further south and let's make sure the hose is long enough to reach. But and then we were going, I guess had thought about, I was trying to remember, we extended some line, I think, or they extended their own line to the truck because they were going to use the basket.
Right.
They didn't get all the way up to the top where they were going. And that fire got to the door.
Right.
And before the fire itself got to the door, I'm watching, and these carboys are going, and releasing their contents.
Right.
And I'm going, the heat from the fire was melting the carboys.
Right.
And I thought, I wonder what that is in those carboys. Found out later it was mineral oil. So that stuff goes in and then it starts coming back out on fire, you know.
Yeah.
And it was like a river, a sea of fire coming out.
I've seen the video.
Yeah. Have you seen from the helicopter's perspective the Waxahachie the Ennis fireman run back to the cab?
Yes. Yeah.
His cell phone was in the seat and he didn't want to lose his cell phone.
Oh.
and he almost lost himself in
Yeah,
the process.
yeah.
I'll tell you why those two guys in the bucket survived. En route to the fire, they were coming down that service road of 287, and the train with the cars was blocking the highway. And so they moved that train out of the way so that truck could make it on through and turn down the driveway and get to us. They were sitting there for maybe a minute and a half, according to Randall Potter, who was the assistant chief up at the highway, Waxahachie assistant chief.
Yeah.
And so they came down and set up. If they had been there a minute and a half sooner, they would have been too high to get out.
Oh, yeah. Very true. Yeah.
Tell me God doesn't look out after us sometimes.
Yeah, that's true.
Well,
Very
really
true.
all the time.
Yeah.
You know,
That's very true.
I said, wow.
Yeah.
Man. One of those guys quit not too long after that.
Yeah, I could see that. You know, you get something like that happen to you.
His wife, I think, had something to do with it.
It might have. I'm going to pause it here. Yeah. All right, so we'll start with this question right here. Where did it go? I lost it. Of course I did. Was there anybody that you like specifically mentored or kind of, I guess, brought up in the fire service with you?
Not consciously, with the exception of trying to teach Dale how to be a fire chief.
Well, I think you did a pretty decent job. I think you did a pretty good job.
Dale had a lot of abilities and talents that I don't possess.
Yeah.
And he's the only member of this department that I ever recruited.
Okay.
And we went way back. Dale got out of high school, I think in '85 here in Midlothian, and immediately joined the volunteer fire department.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I didn't make it a point to be buddy with him right that second.
Right,
But he went and on his own, became an EMT and became a paramedic.
Okay.
And then in 1988, I believe it was the first time I got an opportunity to hire a couple of people at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And I hired Dale out of the volunteer ranks, and I hired Stacy from outside the department. Stacy was the first person outside the volunteer rank that I hired.
Okay.
Back then, you know, you were kind of trying to reward the faithful volunteers, if you could. But at the time, Stacy was a experienced. He was in his late 20s, and he had 2 or 3 other jobs before.
Right.
And it just seemed like he would be a good addition to the department to bring in some outside perspective.
For sure.
So they got hired in October of '88, if I recall correctly.
Okay. I couldn't tell you if you're right or wrong. I know when I talked, he told me, but it's been a while since then. So
well, okay. So here we go. I don't think Dale will mind me saying this.
Okay.
You can edit it out if he fusses.
All right, I will.
He joined the department in '88, and because he was not fire certified as a paid firefighter, the first thing to do was to send him to fire school. Yours truly was not fire certified as a paid firefighter. So he and I and Travis Crump all went to Cedar Hill Fire Academy, and I think we were, I was trying to remember if we were, I can't remember if we were, I think we were class 3, maybe another class or 2, but anyway, went to that fire academy, and we attended it from October of '88 to January of '89. And we graduated from the academy, and I don't remember, sometime there right after that graduation in January, it was Dale's first shift. And, time rocked along. I lost track of him. He went and joined Rowlett Fire Department and worked his way up over time to the rank of captain.
Right.
I became reacquainted with him. I kind of bumped into him again when I moved into his neighborhood.
Oh, okay.
He lived on the corner of Roundabout and 5th. Is that right? No, Whitney and 5th.
Whitney and 5th.
Whitney and 5th. He was a corner house, and we moved to 805 Whitney.
His initials are still on the door.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Well, my wife, my second wife, became good friends with Terry, and so Dale and I, visited with each other a little bit. We weren't like bosom buddies or anything right then, but we visited with each other. And I thought, well, I'm glad, that you're doing well. I'm glad that you're still in the fire service, and you seem happy at Rowlett. When I finally got to the point of, I think it was probably 2000, trying to remember when he actually hired on. I think it was about 2004 to 2005 in there. I recognized, I woke up one morning, actually I was shaving at the mirror.
Yeah.
And it hit me for the very first time, David, you are 55 years old. And you've only got maybe 10 more years.
Right.
10 or 11 more years to work. Who's going to take over for you? Who are you going to pass this off to? So I made it a point right then to start interviewing my existing paid staff.
Right.
I interviewed each one of them individually in my office, and I asked them what their goals were. Trying to see if anybody wanted to be fire chief.
Right, yeah.
Nobody.
Nobody wanted it.
Well, I mean, they didn't see themselves in that role,
for sure.
The only one that had vision was Kevin Lucia.
Oh, really?
He said, well, I'd like to be fire marshal. And I filed that away in the back recesses of my mind and said, well, okay, work toward it.
Yeah.
I had a training officer at the time that I suggested. I told each one of them, I said, I'm trying to figure out who should be the next fire chief. And I said, if you're interested in it at all, I will work with you to help you be qualified.
Right.
I can't guarantee you
sure.
get it, but
right.
And so nobody wanted it. And I realized then, well, I'm going to have to go outside the department to find someone. Along about that time, and I don't know if I had thought about Dale in the role of fire chief before this or not. I was going through my 90-day suspension, and not suspension, demotion, 90-day demotion. And I was out washing my car on the apron, dressed in blues,
Yeah.
And Dale pulled up off duty. And he came walking over to me and he said, Chief, he said, I just wanted to stop and tell you. He said, I know that you probably felt bad when you had to terminate me way back. And he said, it hurt. But he said, that was the best thing that could have happened to me at the time. And he said, I just want you to know that I appreciate you doing what you had to do. And he said it really made a difference in my life. And it's really been the thing that's driven my career over in Rowlett.
That's good.
And I said, Dale, you just made my day. Yeah. I said, I really needed a boost and you gave it to me.
There you go.
Words to that effect.
Right.
And we said bye. And I thought to myself, local guy, super sharp. I wonder if he'd be interested in coming to work over here. So there was a man at Waxahachie that I was looking at, and Dale that was now in the back of my mind. And so I started pursuing him. It was probably, Hurricane Katrina was a big event in 2005, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's right.
Yeah.
And Dale was involved in that. We actually talked on telephone once or twice during that because he was handling some refugees from that area, and I was forced into that posture here as well.
Right.
And not too long after that, I was able to get budgetary approval for the 2006-2007 budget year to hire another deputy chief. Tom Montgomery was a deputy chief at the time.
Right. Deputy chief / fire marshal, correct?
He became the fire marshal, but I think in 2005, I was still the fire marshal. I was the fire marshal for a long time in addition to being fire chief.
Okay.
But Tom was originally a lieutenant and the plans officer. And that was a whole nother story.
Okay.
But I transitioned him to deputy chief, and I believe I did shortly thereafter ask him to function as fire marshal, which he did for many years thereafter.
Right.
But I needed another deputy chief, and really my point in bringing Dale in, I couldn't get anywhere close to his pay at Rowlett unless he was chief level.
Right.
And I wanted him to think about being the next fire chief. You know? So I talked the city manager into putting that in the budget, and then I started working on Dale, asking him, "Can I entice you to be, a deputy chief here?" And I gave him the whole 9 yards from the start.
Yeah.
He said, "Well, I don't know. I'll have to think about that," because he loved what he was doing.
Right.
You know, he loved his crew that he was running in Rowlett.
Yeah.
All the years he had spent there, and I said, "Well, you're local. You know everybody in town. You graduated from high school here.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't have to commute."
Right.
And I said, "It'll be a change from what you're doing."
Yeah.
And I said, "It won't be instant. It's going to be a few years before I'm going to retire.
For sure. Yeah.
Unless I get fired. But would you think about it?" And finally, he said, "Okay." And he came, and by his own admission, I think he would tell you that the first year or 2 years as deputy chief was rough on him, because he was no longer in the station.
Right.
He was no longer overseeing a crew.
Right.
You know, he didn't have that camaraderie.
Right.
But as you know, Dale has one of the best people skills of anybody.
Oh, for sure.
Anybody I've ever known.
Yeah.
And he's been such an asset to the department. Even before he was chief, he was an asset. I always had this open door policy. Literally, leave my office door open and tell everybody, "You can come to see me anytime you want to about anything. I won't say, can't come in."
Right.
Almost nobody would come in.
Right.
And I think part of it, there's still cop in me. I can't get it out.
Yeah.
It just kind of, and I was told by my volunteer assistant chief way back. He came in one day and plopped down at the desk in the office. We were in the old building before it was remodeled, before it was just fire. So my office was a passageway in that building. And he came in and plopped down, and I was working on a computer, and he was over here. And, I kind of glanced over, and I was still going. And finally, I realized he was still sitting there, and I stopped and I turned around. He said, "Are you through?" I said, "Yeah, go ahead."
Yeah.
He said, "What do you think that the people in this town think of you? What is their impression of you? Do you have any idea?" I didn't know where he was going with it, but I thought, well, I hope that they feel like that I'm doing a pretty good job as fire chief, that they, that I'm competent, I know what I'm doing. He said, "They think you're an arrogant asshole."
At least he's brutally honest.
He was very brutally honest, very direct. Dennis Parker was very direct. And I just said, "Okay, why?" He said, "Because they don't know you." He said, "You can walk into a room and piss everybody off." He said, "It's just the way you carry yourself."
Yeah.
And I can only relate, not all of it, but a lot of it was the cop experience.
For sure.
Because if you didn't take charge of a situation as a police officer when you got there, you were going to get run over.
Yeah.
So even if you didn't know what to do, you played like you knew what to do.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that was part of it. And the other part, when I first became fire chief, I was really proud. It was my fire department.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. But that's what I thought.
Yeah.
And so Father had to humble me.
There you go.
And there was a lot of experiences where he worked on me, and there was a lot of humbling that I had to go through.
Right.
Toward the end of my career, I realized that what being a fire chief, at least for me, was supposed to be, is it was a ministry. It was not my possession. I was a trustee. I was supposed to be a caretaker, and I was supposed to try to make the organization the best.
It's an interesting way of looking at it, for sure. It's
yeah.
I'm sure I'm sure if you asked, probably 100 people, they probably wouldn't describe it like that. But it's interesting how you describe that.
For me,
So,
that's what it became.
yeah.
Tom, interestingly enough, he and I had a lot of discussions. And I just want to say, Tom has been one of the most faithful members of this department as long as he was on it.
Mm-hmm.
He would work extra hours. He was always willing to do whatever.
Mm-hmm.
He, like me, could be a curmudgeon sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Tom was one that would always take advantage of the open door. In other words, he'd come in and tell me exactly what I was doing wrong,
Mm-hmm.
and I always appreciated it. You need somebody like that.
For sure.
You need people that
to keep you grounded.
Yeah, well, to keep you humble too.
Yeah.
And Tom did a good job in the right spirit to do that. And I was sad to see him retire when he did, and I was really sad with what happened with his daughter right after that.
Yeah.
But, and he lived down the street from me for a few years after that. Anyway, where was I on this rabbit trail?
We were talking about who you mentored.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So Dale, when he came on, I told him, I said, I want to help you become a fire chief. And he said, well, I want to go to the National Fire Academy. I said, great, apply, we'll pay for it.
Right.
And one of the things he brought to this department was the ability to go out, and people wouldn't come to me. So there's a lot of stuff that went on that I never would have known if he hadn't been out listening and talking. And he would always tell the troops, at least this is what he told me, he would always tell the troops, don't tell me something you don't want the chief to know.
Yeah.
Because he said, if you tell me and I think it's serious enough, I'm going to go tell him. I don't want to be I don't want to be caught in a switch.
Right.
Yeah. And he was very good at coming to me and keeping me pointed in the right direction. And he was a good balance to me in terms of helping me think a little bit more about the softer side, or the more, compassionate side.
Because the father side, I guess.
Yeah, I have always tended with my own kids even to be more of the disciplinarian.
Yeah.
And Dale, I think, has a little kinder heart, maybe.
Yeah. I guess the motherly side of things is what I should have said.
Well, I don't know. Dale is just very, very good at that.
Yeah.
And so he was a real asset. He and Tom were like this for several years.
Yeah.
But they worked it all out.
Yeah.
And it, you say mentor. Probably the biggest thing I told Dale, I said, Dale, you're going to have to get used to sitting behind the computer, sitting at the desk. You can't be gone all the time and do the fire chief's job.
Right.
But I've been so proud of what he's done, and I've been able to sleep at night, not worried a bit.
Yeah.
Not worried a bit.
That's good. Who was your mentor? Who did you look up to?
Probably one or two authors like Brunacini, David Hudgens over in Waxahachie, because of their experience, because of what they were able to help me with. David Hudgens has been my best friend for a long time. And it was always good. I could go over to Waxahachie, sit down, and get it all off my chest.
Yeah.
And he would never say anything to anybody about what I said.
That's
or
good.
How I felt.
That's good.
And everyone, especially the man at the top, needs that.
Oh, for sure.
Because, I'm a jokester at heart, really, but I couldn't do that as fire chief.
Yeah.
I couldn't prank with people.
Yeah.
Couldn't kid people unmercifully.
Right. Yeah.
Because there's no way for them to get back at me.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's just good that you got somebody that you can get stuff off your chest.
For sure. Like you said, everybody needs it. Everybody from the bottom all the way to the top. So
yes,
yeah, that's very true. It's very true. Let's see. We'll kind of skip that one. So you were kind of in a big time period for the fire service period. There's a lot of things changing at that time, being introduced, techniques, tactics, equipment, all that stuff, right? What was the one thing that came along that changed how y'all operated? And Did you have a bad opinion about it originally? Did you see it and go, I just don't think this is going to work out, or I don't see how this is going to help us?
Well, the thing that first comes to mind, at least, is positive pressure ventilation,
Mm-hmm.
because we had used exhaust fans for
Right.
years to
Yeah.
very limited success.
Right.
And positive pressure ventilation, people say, what? You're going to force air into this fire?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But the proof is in the pudding.
Right. For sure.
And I thought I understood the concept,
Mm-hmm.
and it worked better than it was described, actually.
Right.
And so that was one thing that we changed. Large diameter hose.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
In that sense, what do you mean, like as supply hose or as a?
Yeah, when I first started, the standard way you would fight a larger fire was you would stop at the hydrant and lay dual 2.5 or dual 3-inch.
Okay. Okay.
If it was a big fire.
Right.
And sometimes if you didn't judge right, you laid a single 2.5
Mm-hmm.
or a single 3. And
Yeah.
now you were strapped.
Yeah.
And you did that to get the stuff. Well, I say some departments, that's a forward lay. Some departments did that. We initially would drive up to the fire and throw everything off the back.
Right.
Usually with a Y to 2 inch and a halves,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe then a 2.5. And we'd lay these lines to the hydrant. Well, we didn't have time to take ladders off and
Right.
other tools off, and so then you'd walk back and forth to the equipment, or depend on the second arriving truck to get it off of. And I realized what the first thing we did when we got the ESD and got some money
Mm-hmm.
was we went to 3-inch hose, which was a big improvement,
For sure.
and adopted the posture of still reverse laying, but reverse laying 2 of them, so we had plenty of water.
Right.
And then as I became aware of 4 and 5-inch hose, it made all the sense in the world. With 5-inch, you could stop at the hydrant,
Yeah.
drop it, and lay to the fire, and you had all your equipment, your ladders,
Everything was
your air
there.
packs,
Yeah.
everything. You had
Yeah.
fans and whatever else you needed. So
Well,
those things were probably the major parts of the fire side. But our job is so much more EMS.
Mm-hmm.
And I would tell you that what made a difference in this department more than anything else that I can put my finger on as a singular thing is Dr. Roy Yamada.
Yeah. Yeah. He's still talked about today. So
He took us from tentative treatment of people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the guys were doing their best, but
For
they
sure.
just didn't have anybody backing and pushing and giving them the tools they needed.
Right.
And we would get somebody out of paramedic school and throw him immediately into the fire.
Mm-hmm.
And there was times I felt like we might have killed the person instead of saved him, really.
Right.
But it wasn't they weren't trying.
For sure.
And so when we first had Dr. Bledsoe as a medical director, and he was good for us.
Mm-hmm.
He helped. And he had to leave our service. And we were sitting there looking around for somebody, and a lady by the name of, oh gosh, what was her name? Kelly. What was her last name? She was our CE coordinator at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Kelly Milliken, I think. She came to me one day and said, hey, I do CEs over in Mansfield too, and there's a new medical control guy over in Mansfield called Roy Yamada. And she said, it would sure be great if he could be your medical director and replace Dr. Bledsoe.
Right.
And I said, okay, So anyway, he came over and met me, and we talked. And I don't know if you ever met him or not.
No, I never had the pleasure.
He was something else.
Yeah.
I never met a doctor quite like him. He was pumped. He was recovering, dealing with leukemia.
Mm-hmm.
At the time. It was in remission.
Right.
And it stayed in remission as far as I know for most of the rest of his life. But he just believed in empowerment. And as a doctor, he's coming and training our troops.
Mm-hmm.
Hour after hour after hour.
Yeah.
And giving them new instruction, the reasoning behind it, the tools, Okay, we're going to need to do this. We're going to need this procedure.
Right.
And the first time he told me that we were actually going to stop people from breathing, I said, "What?"
Yeah, I'm sure you're a little nervous.
Oh my gosh, how could this go wrong?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But he made a believer. I mean, the doctor's saying that, and he's willing to put his license on the line. And
Yeah.
one of the things that impressed me the most about him is just giving the guys his cell phone number and saying, "You can call me anytime, day or night."
Yeah.
And he was good as gold at that. They'd call him, and he'd wake up and talk to him.
Yeah.
And he would actually go in and talk to the hospital if they had a problem with something we were doing.
I've heard stories.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've heard stories that he would make trips and
He
call
would.
out other doctors for calling his guys out.
Yes, he would.
So.
And he empowered
For
the
sure.
EMS part of this department
Yeah.
to be the best.
Yeah.
And I was so overjoyed that I could have confidence that our paramedics were not going to kill anybody,
Yeah.
that we're not God,
Mm-hmm.
so we don't really determine whether the person lives or dies.
Right.
But we can do the highest quality medical care
Right.
and give them the best chance,
For
not
sure.
only at life, but at a quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a real confidence booster, I think, on the department, esprit de corps, that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And I still, to this day, if I've told my family, if I'm hurt outside Midlothian,
Drive me to Midlothian.
drive me to Midlothian and then call the ambulance.
Yeah.
Please don't let me go with, well, I won't name their name. Please don't. Please don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I would go with Mansfield.
Right. For sure. For
I'd
sure.
probably go with Cedar Hill.
Yeah. For sure.
But
for sure.
Midlothian would be my choice.
Yeah. Yeah. There's still a lot of that, like you say, a spirit de corps for some of those older guys that worked under Dr. Yamada. There's a lot of admiration for him. So
Yeah.
I would have to agree with you in that statement. He probably did a lot to bring this department forward.
Huge. And what the spinoff, of all that is that as we got better in the EMS side, the public liked us even more.
You're right.
Very few people experience a fire.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people experience medical emergencies,
For sure.
wrecks, falls,
Mm-hmm.
sickness. And I told when Robert Cunningham formed the association, the Firefighters Association of Midlothian, I wasn't sure I liked the thought of it, but I decided, okay, we can get a lot farther down the road if we work together.
Right.
So here's what you guys need to do. And I don't think anybody to this day has taken me up on this. So
Let's hear it.
I said, we have a database of our patients.
Mm-hmm.
And on all those patients that had a successful outcome, they probably still like us.
Mm-hmm.
And the ones that live in Midlothian are taxpayers.
Right.
So if you get in a situation where you need support from the council, it doesn't do me any good as fire chief to get up and campaign for stuff, because I work for the city manager and he can say, David, you've said enough.
Right.
But he can't say that to the citizens.
Right. Yeah.
So maintain a database of satisfied EMS customers with their phone numbers, and ask them, when you get their phone number, say, would you be willing, if in the future sometime we need you to come down and speak at a council meeting to support us, would you be willing to do that? I said, if you have that database and you get in a situation where you need more resources or you would like more money, call them.
Yeah.
Ask them to come speak on your behalf.
True.
And I said that because I had seen the effect of just one citizen showing up when we were small. We went through a period where Chuck Pinto, original city manager, did a payroll study and a compensation plan, is what he called it.
Right.
And back then we didn't have anything.
Right. Yeah.
So the guy, whoever it was that did this compensation plan, worked it out so that we weren't on the Fair Labor Standards Act regimen. We were paid as if we were 40-hour-a-week employees. In other words, our pay scale was that way. And they would pay us overtime. And when we moved into the Fair Labor Standards Act, started working 24s and we had a work period. You know, at first it was a 28-day work period,
Right.
which gave them Kelly days, and eventually they decided they didn't really need those Kelly days, and could they work a shorter work pay and get more overtime? And I thought, sure, why not? Well, we were paying, because of the way we calculated overtime, we were paying above what the Fair Labor Standards Act would require. A city manager in 1980, no, excuse me, about 1994, 3 or 4, he realized that. And he thought, you know, we need to start paying the way they require in the Fair Labor Standards Act, which meant that the guy's take-home pay was going to go down.
Yeah.
And I started my first trouble by having a little powwow with the paid guys around the table after the city manager, right before Christmas, told everybody what he was going to do.
Perfect timing.
Yeah. And I said, guys, this doesn't affect me because I don't get overtime. But I said, it does affect your pocketbook. And I said, I think it would be really good if you have any influence with the community, that you go out and talk to somebody and have them come down here and express support, you know, for keeping the way we've been going, you know. Well, Tom had a neighbor across the street who was active in politics, local Republican Party politics. He knew the mayor. So he goes to the mayor and has a sincere, hard talk with the mayor. And then he and his wife showed up in a council meeting when the city manager brought this change in the pay policy up. And so he does his spiel, and then the mayor, Maurice Osborne at the time, said, well, you know, I've been talking to some people, you know, some citizens, and he said, I think the basic sentiment is that they like the firemen and the policemen. They don't want to cut their pay, you know. And this guy raised his hand. He said, may I speak? And they said, sure, you can speak. And so he stood up and he said, we've got good firemen and good policemen in this town, and I am not in favor of cutting their pay. I think you need to continue to pay the way you've been paying, calculate the way you've been paying. And I think it was Maurice that said, well, you understand that we have a small staff right now, so it's not that many dollars that we're talking about. But he said, someday we're going to have 50 or 100 people. And he said, if we're still doing it this way, it's going to be a lot more money for the city to have to pay. And this guy says, I don't care. He said, I don't care if we have to pay them $100,000 more a year.
Yeah.
He said, I think they deserve it.
Right.
And back then, nobody came to city council meetings.
Right.
So
they barely come now too.
For a citizen to show up and be that adamant about it,
right?
You know that, well, if I go against him, I might have people voting against me.
Right,
know?
For sure.
And so they left it alone.
Yeah, that's actually not a bad idea.
Yeah.
You know, as far as I know, we don't do that. I know, like for EMS calls, like if we get a save or something, they'll try to, you know, contact the person to try to get them to come back and, you know, meet the crew or whatever. But
yeah. I think it's just good public relations.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It's not a bad idea at all. You know, and like you said, citizens speak volumes. You know, we can only speak so much, but
that's right.
It's very true. So when y'all were all in the same station or in the same building, you know, or Station 1 and kind of fire admin was kind of all in the same place.
Right.
Did you eat with the crews or anything?
Once in a blue moon.
Did you have a favorite meal or did you have a favorite cook? Somebody that made food?
I just took whatever they did.
You just gave whatever they gave you?
I didn't eat enough to know who was a good cook.
Okay.
Oh, man. We went through some interesting times back then, though. We had a fireman that, and I found this out later, I didn't know it at the time, he loved ketchup. Put it on everything.
Ted McPherson?
No, I don't know about Ted. But
Ted loves his ketchup.
No, I can't remember this man's name, but he wound up going to Cedar Hill. Anyway, and I found it out after he left, I found this out. I said, he put ketchup on everything? And they said, yeah, even ice cream. I said, you're kidding. No, he would put ketchup on ice cream.
We should have fired him a long time ago.
Thought, man, that's a weird palate right there.
That's funny. So my next question, I've got some things that I would like to get your opinion on. Is what are some of the best pranks that happened around the station? And I know as a fire chief you couldn't partake in them, but was there any particular ones that you were like,
Oh, I mean, I saw. Well, actually, some of the funniest was when I was in Mesquite, for crying out loud. But and I could participate in them then.
yeah,
But here, they'd short sheet beds,
yeah,
and I don't, I don't think initially that there was a lot of like serious pranking or hazing going on. I'm sure
right, yeah,
they'd kid with each other
yeah,
and do
yeah,
stuff. And we got to a point a little later on. We got more people, and they started treating rookies a little, different.
mm-hmm. Yeah,
And I got concerned, and I just told them, I said, "Hey, good-natured fun is one thing,
right,
but do not haze anybody.
right,
There's no place for that."
for sure, for sure.
So I don't know that I really have been aware of any. Well, one of the volunteers one time, and this was before I became fire chief. One of the volunteers, apparently he was not popular, and they actually put gasoline in his boots.
Oh my gosh!
And he found it and poured it out and everything.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
then you got gas vapors,
Yeah,
gasoline
yeah.
vapors in your boots.
Probably not probably not the best prank.
No, that was not. I took that a lot more seriously than a prank.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, yeah.
Trying to get somebody hurt. But
yeah.
But as far as anything else going on, they would sometimes. I think what happened was actually they backed a truck in a little far one day, and this was in the old station before we remodeled it. The lockers, there were some lockers right behind the apparatus.
Uh-huh.
They backed it in far enough that one of the ladders hit a locker door and kind of jammed it shut.
Uh-huh.
And so the fireman comes running into the next fire, and he can't get it open. He just happened to be stout enough that he managed to force the whole
Oh, wow.
thing down.
Yeah. Well, I got one I want to ask you about. So I hear this story all the time, but it's about a pirate flag on the back of an engine.
Okay. Yeah, I'm minding my own business one day in the fire station, and I don't know who it was that told me this. Somebody called me and said, "Hey, it might have been somebody in the city, either the manager or one of the other people in the city."
Right.
Called me and said, "Chief, did you know you have a pirate flag on the back of one of your apparatus?" I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, it's a skull and bones pirate flag on the back of it was engine one at the time." And Jeff Silva was on duty that day.
Uh-huh.
And so I called him and said, "Call me, please," on the phone.
Yeah.
So he called me. I said, "Jeff, is there a pirate flag on the back of engine one?" Yeah. And I said, "What possessed you to put a pirate flag on the back of our engine?" "Well, we're the good pirates."
Oh, man.
I said, "Jeff, take that flag off the truck now."
Oh, it's too funny.
And there's another real funny deal on the radio one day. Tom Montgomery took an engine to, I think it's a tire company up on I-20 at 342, somewhere in that neighborhood. It's a commercial tire company. And we bought our tires from them back then.
Okay.
So we had a need to get a tire put on. And he goes up and he's bringing it back. Or it was either that or he had brought an engine back from Kaufman. I'm not sure which. But anyway, riding down the road, he had a blowout on a front tire of the engine he was driving. Well, he was close enough to radio us.
Yeah.
And he said, he called us and he said, I'm out here on I-20. He said, "I've had a blowout and I need y'all to get me, we need a wrecker out here to tow the apparatus." And I said, "Do you need anything else?" And he says, "Yeah, and a change of underwear."
I can imagine. Yeah.
On the radio.
I can imagine. That's funny. That's funny. What were some of your best memories around the station?
Well, I really appreciated the guys' work ethic. Once we had our procedures and our routines down, and they changed over the years as we got more equipment, different ways of checking it and making sure that it was working, making sure the booster tank was full of water,
Yeah,
that kind
yeah.
of stuff. They really, for the most part, did a good job day in and day out. And I know there was some things that probably went on that I was unaware of.
No, yeah. Yeah.
But I think I tried to honor, even though we were in the same building.
Mm-hmm.
They had their space back here, and I had my office up here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they appreciated me staying in my office and letting them carry on back here.
Yeah, do their thing.
Anytime I went back there, they acted perfectly fine. I mean, they
Right.
didn't think, "Oh no, here he comes again."
Yeah.
They might have felt that way, but,
Yeah.
but they didn't say anything. And
Right.
I would go back and sit down and visit sometimes, just shoot the bull,
Right.
and occasionally eat lunch with them.
Right.
I would tell them if there was something coming up, budget wise, that I thought they would be interested in or happy about.
Right.
I would ask their opinions sometimes on things. But as far as like a lot of day-to-day camaraderie with the crew, probably wasn't a part of that too much.
For sure. Yeah. Understandable though.
So
yeah. All right, so we're going to kind of get to the end here, and we're going to go into kind of like reflection, a little bit of advice that you might have, things of that nature. So if you could go back and talk to your younger self when you were hired on as the fire chief, what advice would you give yourself? Or would you give yourself any advice at all?
Oh gosh, yeah. Yeah. First off, get off your high horse. I was 38 years old when I was made paid fire chief, and proud of it, excited about it, thought that I was really going to make a great organization.
Right.
Somehow it was going to be me that made that great organization.
Right, right.
I would counsel myself to pay more attention on a daily basis to things that I could complement instead of looking for flaws. Now, I didn't go around trying to find people, trying to catch them.
Right.
But my past as a police officer and mindset as a disciplinarian, I think sometimes made me too quick to pass judgment and think that I needed to be punitive rather than educational. So that's something that Dale has added, I think, to this department is that look at the training side of the educational side, or make sure they didn't misunderstand, make sure they have a good understanding of what's expected of them. Now, I gradually learned that.
Right.
And the council helped a lot with humbling me. So I guess from about 2005 on, because that's when we started Station 2, started constructing Station 2.
Right.
And we went into just a continual hiring process. I never got out of a hiring process from that point to the day I retired. I got to the point where no matter what your qualifications were, and no matter how many letters you had after your name or how great you looked, if I had a gut feeling that bothered me about you, I'm not going to hire you.
Yeah.
I finally came to the understanding that it's a lot easier to get rid of a bad employee if you don't hire him to begin with.
That's very true.
Having said that, I made my fair share of mistakes.
Yeah.
But it was never anything that I enjoyed having to discipline people. In fact, there's one or two that I really felt bad about, but I kind of had to because of what we had set up as rules.
Right.
And you have to always be careful that what you choose to do, you're really setting a precedent, usually. or it's already been set, one of the
Right.
two.
Yeah.
I would tell myself not to take myself quite so seriously.
Yeah.
I would inquire more about the side of my troops that is spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to introduce that a few times. Typically, it was at a Christmas party or
Right. Yeah.
something like that. One thing I regret that I would definitely do differently
Mm-hmm.
is when I got to retirement, we were having a party, and I did not take enough time at that retirement celebration to thank all of the people that had made this department possible.
It's a long list.
Yes, it is a long list.
Mm-hmm.
Outsiders as well as insiders.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And looking back, it was a few years after I retired, and I thought, David, you should have talked less about other things
Mm-hmm.
and expressed more gratitude to other people.
Yeah.
So I think that's what I would counsel a fire chief, an organization head to do.
Yeah.
Is you're really there to set the tone, you're to set the course, you're to uphold the standards.
Mm-hmm.
You deal with the human side, the personnel problems as best you can.
Right.
Sometimes you're hamstrung by rules outside of yourself, HR
For sure. For sure.
or law.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, those are some of the things that I would tell myself. And above all, it's not your fire department.
Right.
You're the trustee.
Mm-hmm.
You work for the benefit of the citizens, and ultimately you're accountable to your creator. You're accountable to the one who put you in that position.
Mm-hmm.
And the Bible says that all authority is established by God.
Mm-hmm.
Those people that are in places of authority were put there, whether they know it or not.
For sure.
And, the sooner you recognize that, the better you're going to do.
Yeah. I agree. Let's see here. Where were we? What do you think are the most important characteristics for a good firefighter to have?
He needs to love the job. He needs to be a servant, because at the bottom, at the base of it, you're a servant.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be willing to lay down your own personal safety and even your life, perhaps,
Mm-hmm.
if you're going to be the kind of fireman that upholds the tradition and the spirit and the pride of the service. I mean, why are you in that position if you're not willing to do that? And that means that you have to study to get better. You can't spend all your time playing video games. Can't spend all your time whiling away the time, looking at your phone, talking to your friends.
Mm-hmm.
You need to devote some of each day to if nothing any more than just learning the city better.
Mm-hmm.
Learning the hazards that are out there, figuring out, training. How are we going to handle this if this does this? And, the department has gotten to the point where you have good training. I mean, you got much better training now than we were ever able to offer.
For sure.
And people that, like Trip, to pay
Mm-hmm.
attention to that.
Yeah.
And to stay on top of it and keep it moving in that right direction.
Mm-hmm.
But I think above all else, the attitude is what makes a good fireman. You just need to have a fire inside.
I think you hit the nail on the head on that one. You talk about loving the job and being into the job. I think that just that alone, everything else will come right behind it. So
I'll tell you that in all my years, public safety has been pretty much that way for me, both police and fire. But specifically, as a paid fire chief in Midlothian, even during my times where I was in trouble, I still wanted to be on the job.
Mm-hmm.
I still wanted to show up to work. I think when I retired, I had over 1,200 sick hours saved up.
Yeah.
I don't recall. I might have used a sick day once or twice, like for an operation or something.
Right.
But as I developed longevity, I had more vacation time than I ever really used.
Yeah, for sure.
It was kind of a joke. I'd get to
Yeah.
the end of the year and I was going to lose vacation days, so I'd take my uniform off and show up in plain clothes. Anybody ask? I said, anybody ask, I'm on vacation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I always wanted to be on the job in some form. I enjoyed going on emergency calls.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed talking with the public. I enjoyed being around the troops. You know, you get a little adrenaline rush every now and then.
For sure, yeah. Yeah.
So I just feel like Father's blessed me so much with a career that I would have done it for nothing had I been rich enough to put beans on the table.
Yeah.
Otherwise.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point.
Yeah.
So my last question for you is: you're in a unique position comparatively to some of the other retirees that I've interviewed. And that being said, what I'm saying is that you still work for the city, so you're still, and you're also in a position that you're closely interact with the department still.
Mm-hmm.
So my question to you is: from the time you started as fire chief to where the fire department is now, obviously, I think we can agree that it's been an improvement, but how has it been on you to watch the department grow and become what it is today?
Oh, it's been rewarding. It's been, so I have a certain set of skills.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all are beyond my set of skills, I think. I was placed here at a time when we were growing. I mean, we were just a baby.
Right.
So I got to participate in the formation of the child and maybe the toddling and the walking and even some running. The pace of it was not as great as it is right now. The requirements and regulations and outside pressures were less. I didn't have to deal with social media. I didn't have to worry about somebody out there in the community taking, well, I had people take pot shots at me, but not with the kind that they can do now.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm proud of the department. I'm just glad that I got to participate in it. And I had a city manager one time that tried to get me to take credit for the growth of, you know, the department, how it had grown. Right. And I just said, I didn't make that happen. I didn't.
Right.
It's the people that came that chose to do the work, that were out there 24 hours at a time. A lot of times I was home in bed. I wasn't doing it. Right. They were doing it.
Right.
And it's still that way. And I guess the thing that makes me the happiest, the best, gives me the most joy out of it, is seeing that I don't see that y'all have slacked off.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
I don't see that anybody's missed a beat. And I think you have, I'm sure with as many guys and gals as you have, not everybody's perfect, you know?
Sure.
And some people have more enthusiasm than others.
Yeah.
And when we get older, we get tired.
Yeah, for sure.
But, you know, I have the utmost respect for the men and the women on this department. And I think it's a credit to Dale. It's a credit to the officers. I get totally thrilled by seeing guys that I hired that are still here and that have promoted and have turned into some excellent officers.
Yeah.
And I just, you know, that's not me. I didn't do that.
Right.
They have done it with their own initiative and their application and maybe some guidance from other people. But I'm just I'm tickled that I still get to rub shoulders and I do my best to not stick my nose in.
Well, that's awesome. Well, we appreciate what you've done to kind of help guide us in this direction and get us to where we are. So I appreciate your time today, and I appreciate all the stories that you shared, and that'll be the end of it.
Well, may I just say to you, Andrew, I'm available, not for another video necessarily, but anytime you just want to sit and talk about something.
Absolutely.
If you have a question, since you're the historian, if you have a question about things that we haven't talked about on the video, if you have a question that you think is not good for video, you can ask me. I'll tell you.
Absolutely.
Please understand that I'm going to do my best to be truthful with you, even if it hurts me.
That's fine.
But it's my version of the truth. In other words, it's the truth as I know it and believe it to be.
Right.
So there's always two sides to any story.
For sure.
And
For sure.
I'm not.
I always say there's three sides to a story: yours, theirs,
and the truth.
Yeah.
That's exactly correct.
Yeah.
That's true in relationships of any kind.
Oh yeah, for sure.